Golden. Welcome everyone who is not live with us. You should be live, it's better. But like these are the recordings. We're trying to get everything sorted. And it's going to be an interesting masterclass. We're going to discuss GABA, and this builds on the lecture I did last week. If you did not see the previous lecture on a similar topic, later I will tell you how to get the slides. You can always talk to Irina. She can help you with all of that part. So you can get the previous one, because it's a bit of part two of the other one. That said, I will try to give a bit of a recap at the beginning if you did miss the previous lecture, so we can also discuss everything in here. I think I'm gonna wait one more minute and then we can start, because I tell you, the moment I start, we start to get people popping in, and then I keep getting the notification, so it's gonna cover our stuff. So it's gonna be like a bit problematic, but we're gonna try to make it like really, really good and really, really nice. So let me have a look at our participants. Okay, so hi Hannah, hi Irina, hi Alex, Audrey, Cynthia, Diane, expecting someone is on iPhone, I don't know. Karen, Kim, Leao, Leon, Lorna, Nicola Newton, Sally, Shazia, Sonia. I think that's it for now. That's it for now. I should have said hi to everyone. If I forgot everyone, apologies. Like the thing was not scrolling the way it's supposed to scroll. All right, before I start, does everyone have good audio and the visual of the screen? So can you please type in chat before I forget, and all good. So Diane says all good. Everyone else? Unfortunately, I don't have my best microphone, which I actually could get because it's in that thing over there. Okay, Lois. Welcome, Lois. Welcome. Beautiful. I think, guys, we can do anything we desire. So let me tell you about this masterclass here. We're going to discuss GABA. And last week, I know that plenty of you did not really know very well what's behind the action potential. So when a cell gets excited and it sends like a signal. And I was thinking of doing like the next class on action potential. But the reality is, if I do that, I already know the next set of questions would be, oh, Nicola, I don't know fully the whole intricate reality of the cellular membrane, because it's not really explained properly in many courses. But if you don't understand the cellular membrane, you can't understand hormones. And if you can't understand hormones, you don't really understand health. And therefore, I think the next masterclass, which nothing weird happens, should be next week. I think I'm going to do the cellular membrane. So I'm going to explain to you like these elements here, just to show you like quickly what I mean. I would like to explain all of the intricacies, like the transmembrane proteins, the fat, all of these parts here, the ions, all of that part right there. Is going to be the next one, and then we do the action potential, because I think it makes more sense. And because I don't know you, because I don't know every single one who's here, but over the course of my 8 years teaching in CNM as a lecturer and clinical supervisor, I did see most people not being very good when it comes to the cellular membrane, and that's a problem for that. When it's coming to health in the future, hot topic now. Lois, I can go inside of the cell, but first I want to do the outside of the cell, because like to get to the mitochondria, the nutrients, they need to cross the membrane first, right? So, and they need to get there, and then they have to cross also the mitochondrial membrane, which is quite similar, but not exactly the same. So I would say, yes, we can, but let's do it with order. Like we get the signal first, we get the signal in the membrane, they get inside of the cell, and then they go into the mitochondria. So that would be something we can absolutely do. But I'm expecting to do these talks here for all the course of the year, if we can, once a week. So we should be golden. Now I'm gonna close the the floating controls. So you should guys be able to see better. And I'm also going to try and remove this thing here if I can. No, this thing here does not go away. Okay, I think I'm gonna try and move it here so you guys can see. Let's begin. And I'm gonna go full screen, slideshow, current slides. All right, so the clock is ticking, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. The clock is going, you're exhausted, and you really want to sleep. But nothing happens. No sleep, no rest, and you just feel exhausted, and you are in that state that I think everyone who has experienced insomnia, at least for a while, that state where you're neither awake nor asleep. If you've ever tried that, like, please raise your hand, because it's something very, very common. It's like, you know you are awake, but you're not focused, and you know you're not even fully asleep. It's a horrible feeling, horrible situation that can have an impact on basically everyone. But why? So why do we get to that stage? What's the problem, and how do we get to that terrible scenario? This is what we're going to discuss today. And I'm going to recap some of the things I did discuss last time, should you have missed the previous talk. So why do we sleep? Essentially, it's very, very simple, okay? There is a substance like called adenosine, which is the major component of the beginning of sleep. This adenosine tends to basically like accumulate in the neurons in the brain until they reach a critical mass. That critical mass is when you start to go in and out of sleep, and then boom, you fall asleep. Essentially, as the day progresses, as you can see from the blue line, adenosine should go higher, and then you reach a point where you fall asleep, and slowly adenosine leaves the brain, and then you wake up. This is how you are supposed to sleep. Obviously, you also need to consider your circadian rhythm. That is also very important. But largely, this is the moment where a person falls asleep and when a person wakes up. It's about this accumulation of adenosine. But it doesn't stop there, because as we did see last time, caffeine has a profound impact on adenosine. And later I will tell you exactly like how the brain slows down and everything when we introduce GABA. But for now, just look on the left. This is like the normal situation without caffeine. So without caffeine, what normally happens, like the enzymes, they just like bind to their receptors. Okay, so the adenosine binds to their receptors, this here in blue. And as you can see, it starts to flow into the dendrite, which is where it's going to calm down the brain, and you will start to feel drowsy. As you can see, blue is adenosine. This Y here is the receptor for adenosine. This is what happens with caffeine. Like caffeine can block up to 14, depending on how good is your genetics in detoxifying caffeine. Some people is really good, some people is not really great, but it can be up to 14 hours, where, as you can see, it blocks the receptor. So now, not every single receptor, obviously, as you can see, some of them are still free. So some adenosine can get in, but largely the majority is going not to be able to do that. And how does caffeine achieve that? Well, when caffeine blocks the receptor, it does a second thing. Please write this down. The receptor is blocked, so the stimulus towards sleep is severely reduced, but it doesn't stop there, because caffeine also makes you produce more adrenaline and noradrenaline. What's the result? Well, you feel less the desire to sleep, but also when you are in adrenaline and noradrenaline spike, you also tend to feel more focused. And this is how caffeine works. And when used in a responsible way, it can be of a lot of help. But it can also cause a lot of problems, like I was showing you last time. Okay, so if you want to know exactly all of the relationship with caffeine, you can go and watch the previous lecture, because it was all about caffeine and everything. But for now, I just wanted to do this quick recap. Now, let me open chat and make sure everyone is on board. Like, are we clear so far? Been a lot like this recently, Lorna. Yeah, yeah. Are we clear, guys? Can you type in chat if everything is clear so far? If anyone has any questions so far, I'm gonna go and get it. Okay, it seems everyone is clear. Okay, let me hide this. And I'm just going to introduce myself quickly. I guess most of you know me. I'm a 3-time bestseller, I wrote like 3 super successful books about fungal infection known as Candida albicans or thrush. I've been for 8 years a nutrition lecturer in CNM London. I've been a business coach for therapists since 2019, so 4 years, give or take. I think more importantly, I did this stuff for real. I'm not like those business coaches like, oh, I should be doing this, and they've never been a successful therapist. Like I regularly work with world champions. I work a lot with like top tier professional athletes. I work with celebrities. I have like a TV show right now coming out for the Italian TV with this friend of mine, the lady you see here, who is like a Italian TV presenter. It's gonna be in Italian, so like if you don't know Italian, you probably can't see it, but you can look me up on my Instagram, Nick Zanetti Official, like at Nick Zanetti Official. You can see like all the stuff I'm doing. You're gonna see maybe with a pro player in a sport called paddle, lots of people in triathlon, like lots of stuff. So I've done this stuff for real. But more importantly than me, we're going to talk about you. So 95% of this training here is going to be the explanation that I'm going to give you. This will include the CPDs. So if you stay until the end, I will give you the slides. And in the slides, there's going to be my CPD provider number that you can use to prove that you were here. Obviously, you need to be live for the CPDs to be given, because otherwise it doesn't work like that. Now, if you are in any of my courses, if you already are like a paying members of any of my courses, these slides, they will be given to you in our Facebook groups. Okay, so I will post them there so you can download them and have them. If not, guys, so you can get in touch with Irina. So Irina Manfo, she's here with us. So if you want to have the slides and your CPD points, please leave your, like, send a private message, or Irina, like, try to find a way to communicate. But we found out that WhatsApp is better than emails, because these slides are 35 megabytes and they don't go through the email directly. And I don't know why, but it says it's too large. So if you want the slides and you're not in my courses, please do send a message, private message to Irina, or Irina find a way to communicate with them and exchange WhatsApp, so we can send them to WhatsApp to you, and it's much easier. And so in the final 5 minutes of this conversation, I will tell you about, I'm running like a promotion until mid-January for like 80% off on my one-to-ones. It's literally the last 5 minutes. So if you want to leave before the last 5 minutes, then I will tell you when I start the promotion. So it's literally 5 minutes if you want to stay. Otherwise that's enough. Like, you don't need to stay for the promotion to get your CPDs. The moment we reach, when I say it's done, you can leave and nothing will happen. So once again, if you are in any of my courses, you're already like a paying customer, paying clients of mine, these slides here will be posted in one of our Facebook groups, so you can get them. If you're not, please do exchange WhatsApp with Irina Manford here in chat, so you guys can receive the slides and everything. And also, she can also send you the previous lecture if you don't have it. Like, I'm building like a page with the previous lecture, and I'm going to put like Masterclass 1, 2, and they're going to be like a list of videos that people can see. And I think it's going to be really, really cool. Now, with that said, I want to make some points right now. So what I'm going to teach you today is going to be really the foundation on the topic, okay? Because the level required in reality is going to be much higher than what I can teach you in 1 hour. But as I have seen, I have 8 years of experience teaching nutritionists and therapists in general. If I make this too complicated, it becomes boring and people don't want to watch boring stuff, okay? So today I'm going to focus mostly on the biochemistry, but obviously we need to understand that every person is an individual. There's going to be genetic variation. There's going to be energetic variation. I do believe in energetics. I do believe like in the spirituality, all of that part. But obviously I can't include that in a biochemistry lecture, because otherwise it's going to be 65 years old, and that's probably longer, and that's not what people want. For now, we're going to focus on one area, and then we're going to expand every single week to make it better and better. So before I go any further, are you guys ready? Let's do it. Let's do it. So let's begin with GABA. Okay, what is GABA? So GABA is the primary and most powerful inhibitory neurotransmitter. Okay, what does it mean? That it can slow down the way the neurons, they can get excited, and it can regulate the brain activity. As an example, if you have ever felt like anxious and you take magnesium, like, look at this, like magnesium and B6, that's exactly perfect for GABA production. And then you start to calm down, is that your body is helping you by calming you down, making you more GABA, okay? So GABA does 3 things in the body. First of all, is going to inhibit the speed of the nerve transmission. Okay, repeat this, and later I tell you why it does that, okay, and how it does that. But step one is inhibition of the nerve transmission. The second, it breaks down anxiety. And again, also later, I will teach you exactly how that happens. And the third one, given the first two, if I slow down the speed of the connection, and if I remove or reduce the anxiety, the first step kicks in. And GABA is really, really important also in sleep regulation. Specifically, and that's a thing that people don't really understand, like melatonin is more important for the beginning of the sleep process, whereas GABA helps the body to go into deep sleep. Okay, and deep sleep is the kind of sleep that you want to have like as much as you can every single night, because in deep sleep you repair your body, in deep sleep you make your immune system, you reduce the inflammation, you repair injuries. It's such a powerful tool. Now, before any further, does anyone know the bare minimum of, in terms of minutes of deep sleep that you need to reach? Okay, so what's the bare minimum of deep sleep that you should be getting? Audrey says 1 hour, a bit more than that, Audrey. If you see the black box, is me reading the chat. A bit more. A bit less. But you're halfway between that. Yeah, like Lona is the closest one. So let's say, if you can reach 90, I'm going to type this in chat, 90 minutes of deep sleep, these can even overtake a bad night of sleep, meaning that if you sleep your 90 minutes in deep sleep, and let's say you sleep 5 hours, but a lot of them are in deep sleep, that is still going to be good. That's still going to be not good, that's still going to be decent. On the long run, that's not sustainable, but deep sleep is super, super important. And there are many ways to check it. Like one of the best ways is like those Oura ring, AURA, Oura rings, or there are even things that you can put under the mattress. And based on the movement, the way you move around in bed, it can really track sleep very, very accurately. Okay, these things are really, really good to have an idea. If you never track your sleep, even like an Apple Watch or like a Garmin, these kind of watches, they can be of help, but obviously they are not as reliable as other ways to do that. But tracking your sleep can be something really useful. Now, speaking of sleep, let me go back and to explain to you the brain waves. So beta brain waves, I'm going to start from here. Gamma brain waves are the brain waves of when you have like an intuition, like you're about to cross the street and something tells you don't cross the street right now, and then you see like a car speeding down. Like sometimes when you cross into the spiritual realm or you have like a connection, these are gamma brain waves. And something like intuition, something like when you feel like you're in tune with your seventh chakra, your crown chakra, that's mostly gamma brain waves. Below that, beta brain waves. This is what you're getting right now. If you're thinking right now, if you're taking notes, you are in beta brain waves. Now, the next piece are the alpha brain waves. And the alpha brain waves is when you start to slow down. These are typical of meditation. And these are the same brain waves that you get when you take like a cold shower and slowly like you go from thinking about millions of things or like being focused or like, I need to breathe, I need to be better because it's really, really cold. Okay, alpha brain waves are characterized by essentially when you go very deep, time disappears. That's how you see that you are in alpha brain waves. Next piece of the puzzle, this is when you start to fall asleep. Theta brain waves, you start to fall asleep, but largely here you are into light sleep, okay? And often you are like dreaming in here, and some people, some really, really strong meditators, they can go into theta brain waves and still be awake. How do you recognize theta brain waves? Your capacity for visualization is almost unlimited. It's like literally you have a TV or like a 3D like screen just in front of you in the same way you would in a dream. It's really weird. Like it happened to me a few times, and you like can literally see things in the room, and normally it doesn't last for long unless you're trained to do that. Delta brain waves is when you go into very, very deep sleep, is where we want to go. And during the course of the night, you keep going all the way from theta to delta, and it keeps going down like that because you want to go into deep sleep to repair the body. But you also want to dream because dreaming is very important for you to be able to reset essentially your emotional health. Now, let me open chat. Are we clear with this part here? Are we clear on the brain waves? Before I go any further, are we clear on the brain waves? And I'm going to type also in chat for you aura rings. These are the things that you can use. Everyone else? Hannah is clear. Nicola is clear. All good? Come on, guys, type in chat for me so I make sure we are aura rings. Sorry. Yes, you're right. You're right. Oh, we have Kim. Hi, Kim. Welcome. All right, good. Let me hide the meeting controls. All right, boom. Next stage. Now, what I'm about to explain here is like a quick overview of adenosine, sleep, GABA. But as I said before, the level required is much higher. But why is it much higher? Why do you need to be so much better than what I'm about to explain? Because like this is the common problem that a lot of therapists struggle with, and it's probably the biggest problem that a lot of therapists have, which is getting a consistent stream of clients into their practice. But why that's the case? Well, obviously, there is an element of maybe not doing the branding right, maybe not doing the marketing right. But at the end of the day, I assure you, after having trained probably close to 10,000 therapists over the course of like more than 8 years, the point being that the majority of therapists are not just good enough to really, really stand out from the crowd. And when you are considered to be at the same level of the crowd, first of all, people are not going to pay you more, so they're not. It's hard to like charge for a premium. But at the same time, guys, like you become like a commodity. Like I can choose therapist A or therapist B. It doesn't really matter because they seem all to be the same. But when you go beyond that, everything really, really like becomes exciting. And later I will talk to you about Hannah. I will talk to you about Maria, who are literally like breaking the market in their specific niches because they are just like so great at what they do that it's ridiculous. Or I also have another lady here, Kim. Like she is the queen of the retreats. Like she literally like has like long queues in her retreats. Why? Because she's absolutely amazing at what she does. Okay. So right now, and I will remind you this later, like I'm going to teach you as much as I can in 1 hour, but guys, we need to go much more beyond. Okay. Obviously, again, as I said, I'm going to just go into basic biochemistry, genetic variability, environment, health of the membrane, everything related to the emotional and spiritual health. I can't cover them here. I explain all of them in my programs. Later, I can tell you a bit more about. But now let's just go and discuss GABA. So how does GABA work? Now I want to make sure everyone is clear in understanding this part here. So if you were not paying, if you're not taking notes, please start now. So GABA is a hormone, and we have seen what GABA is so far, and later I will tell you a bit more how it works. But GABA per se is pointless without two more components. And you have to understand that when it comes to GABA, when it comes to hormones in general, the context is what really matters. So let's begin with some questions to make sure everyone is following and everyone is clear. So alongside the hormone, there are two more components which are vital for that hormone to work. Which ones? So which are the three elements? And you put that in chat. See, I'm teaching. Someone does not dream. What is the consequences of health? If they don't really dream, a lot of like mental health related issues, because that's where you repair that part. B6, yes, also B6 is not incorrect. You're thinking about the cofactors then. Okay, I'm okay with that. But there are two things before that. Okay, Hannah is saying correctly, receptor. So as you can see why I'm so proud of Hannah, because hormones, let me repeat this, hormones are pointless if they're not received. A hormone is a message. If there is nothing that translates the message, that hormone is completely void. It doesn't do anything. So hormones first, then receptors. What's the third step? What's the first step? It's so important. Please, guys, think about that. You can have the best hormone and the best receptor, but if the third element is damaged or it's not working as intended, your message will not be received. Does anyone know the third one when it comes to hormonal health? Anyone? See what chat is saying. Yes, membrane health. Now, do you guys see why Hannah has built almost 2,000 people group in less than a year as a newly graduated therapist with 4 kids? Because that's the level I want. Yes, the third level is the health of the membrane, which I'm going to cover with you in a second. And the fourth one, you were right, Kim and Leao, they were saying good things because like B6, magnesium, zinc, these are all of the cofactors. So let me repeat this concept with you here. Like there is so much focus in right now in nutrition related to, do you have the genetic SNP to make the hormone? Do you not have? But that is only one element. I'm not saying it's wrong because it's right, but it's only one element, okay? If that hormone is made perfectly, but the receptor is damaged, let's say, because you're taking some medication, because you're drinking alcohol, whatever, I'm going to give you some examples in a moment, that hormone will not be translated. And therefore, that hormone, even if in the blood test, the genetic test is perfect, it doesn't do jack nothing, okay? The third element is the health of the membrane, because as you can see, this is like a GABA receptor, and it's in a membrane. Now, someone, I think Lois was saying that diet and exercise, they do make a difference. And the answer is true, but does anyone know why? Like this is a membrane. What's the membrane of a cell largely made of? What's the membrane of a cell largely made of? Yeah, it's made of fat. Okay, lipids is made of fat. But where does the body take that fat from? Where do we take it from? Is it random? Can we use the best one that we want, or do they come from somewhere? Where do the phospholipids? Yes, they do come from the diet. And this is where us as therapists, we can make such a massive difference, okay? Because the receptor is nothing but a protein, okay? So if the diet of the person is full of essential amino acids, the person can make more than enough good receptors. And if the receptor is damaged, like you see here from the benzodiazepine, for example, this is the GABA receptor, it's not a terrible deal because if the body has enough of the amino acid, it can repair the receptor. But nothing works if the membrane becomes too stiff. And the stiff membrane normally comes from two things: elevated levels of omega-6 fatty acids, but more importantly, trans fatty acids. I repeat, a very stiff membrane does not allow for the receptor to squeeze properly because it's made of very difficult to twist fatty acid. And the worst offenders are trans fat. Trans fat are extremely stiff, but also omega-6 fatty acid, when they are unbalanced compared to their omega-3, they can also make the membrane very, very stiff. A stiff membrane does not work as intended. Someone takes a thyroid test and everything seemed perfect. TSH is perfect, T4 is perfect, T3 is perfect, and still they can't lose weight. Well, we need to investigate. Is there anything that damages the receptors? Many medications do that. But also, is there anything that makes the membrane very, very stiff? If the answer is yes, for example, the Western diet, weight loss will become so much more difficult. And this is when the intervention that we can do as therapists can be massive. Like, I don't think you guys realize how much of you can really empower the life of a person when you do understand all of these small details. Like the difference that you can make to the life of a person is mind-blowing. I don't think there is anyone, any type of therapist in the world that can make the same thing of a health therapist that also understands nutrition, because nutrition is basically what your body is made of. I can give you as many medicine as I want, but if the receptor and the membrane is stiff, it's not going to work as intended. Before I go to the next topic, are we crystal clear here? Guys, can you tell me if you're all clear, or if you have questions? If you have a question, I'm going to answer that. Yes, yes. Everyone else? Come on, I only have 4 people answering. Like we have like 62 people, no, 24 people with us. Okay, good. Beautiful. Okay, let me go to the next part here. Now, and please pay attention here because I did explain this last time, but I don't know if everyone was in here. Let me tell you now how GABA makes you feel calmer, okay? Now, and that's the reason why I want to do the health of the membrane first and then explain to you the action potential, because otherwise it's a bit of a problem. So this one here is the inside of the cell is below where you see the minus, and the outside of the cell is up above where you see the plus, the black part, okay? Essentially, the more negative is the inside of the cell, the more negative, the more difficult is for a neuron to start to fire in an uncontrollable way, which means anxiety. Above that means panic. Above that means like seizures, okay? That's the speed of the neuron firing, okay? So the more the neuron is like negative on the inside, someone was mentioning before ADHD or someone in one of my things, but that's another issue that you see. The more negativity we have inside, and GABA is responsible to do that, the better it will be. And GABA can do that in two ways. It pushes out the potassium ions, as you can see. If I push out something which is plus, I'm going to have more minus inside. But is there a very, very important ion which is negative that can go inside as well to make this even stronger? So potassium goes out. Does anyone know which kind of ion gets inside? Very, very important. It's negative. Yes, Leao said it right. It's chlorine, Cl minus. I'm going to type that in chat. Chlorine. Okay. Chlorine is normally Cl minus. It is one of the major negative ions that can really, really be helping. So essentially GABA, this is what GABA does to calm you down. It pushes out the potassium. It brings inside the chlorine. By doing so, it becomes for you so much more difficult to get into a panic attack, to get into anxiety, and to get into any of these kind of very, very like demanding situation. This is what GABA does essentially in a nutshell. And to do that, as you can see, there are so many things that you need to consider. Consider the membrane, consider the receptor, consider GABA, consider the balance of the electrolytes. It's not just one thing, okay? So supplements can be of help, and they will be of help, but you have to see everything in the context of we are human beings. We are not just human membranes or human hormones. That's what like a lot of people I see them doing when they write books and everything. That's not the way to do it. Like think always about like a person as an individual. Think about all of this time in here, and I assure you, you're gonna get better. And I assure you, if you keep coming to these events here by the end of the year, by 2024, you're gonna be like a freaking machine in that. I promise you that. And I always keep my promise here. There are lots of people who studied with me, like Kim studied with me, like Hannah studied with me, Diane studied with me. I always try, like they can assure you, I always try my super best to make sure everyone is understanding as much as possible. And therefore, if you keep coming to these events here, I will make sure to make them very, very worth it for you and for you to be able to understand everything. Now, let me go now and discuss caffeine. So last time, I did not manage to do everything I wanted to discuss on caffeine. Now I want to tell you three things. Well, technically four, but one is not that difficult. Four things about the relationship between caffeine and GABA, and then we are done for today. Now, all the references that I'm using are going to be at the end of the slides. There are about, I think, 10 papers I used to do these slides here. So all the references that you need, they're going to be at the end of the slides. For now, we can say for a fact that caffeine has a profound impact on the GABA receptor. How and why? The first impact is indirect impact, meaning, remember what I told you before at the beginning of this lecture here. The first thing I told you was the relationship between adenosine and caffeine, as with caffeine being able to block the receptor for adenosine. And as you can see down here, there is less adenosine that gets in. And you might be thinking, okay, why is this relative to GABA? Because this is a relationship with adenosine. Because also caffeine boosts the production in your brain of adrenaline and noradrenaline. So let me go back to that slide. See if I can go back in an easier way. Okay. So I repeat this concept here. Not only it helps with the relationship with the adenosine, but also increases the production of adrenaline. And now I have a question for you. Why is adrenaline more powerful than GABA? Because it is. Why is adrenaline overpowering GABA, making GABA less effective when you have a rush of adrenaline? Does anyone have any idea with that? Does anyone have any idea? Explain the principle of liposomal vitamins. Yes, Audrey, remind me and I will. Come on, guys. Why is adrenaline more powerful than GABA? Come on, we have 26 therapists here. I'm sure someone should know this. It's a very simple thing. Like if you think about it, you don't need biochemistry. It's literally like common sense. No one? Like we have like the hay ball moving? No one? Really? Should I tell you? Chat, should I tell you? Yes? No? Come on, tell me in chat. All right, so Audrey is saying something quicker and Kim is saying fight or flight. And that's correct. Okay, so imagine as a human being, we were essentially born. We're not fully sure where is the birthplace of humanity. It's somewhere between Africa and the Middle East. And every year, like all the skeleton comes out. But what we know for a fact that human beings were born in a place where it was very hot. We know for a fact that human beings had, at the beginning of our history, much darker skin than it was used on, we weren't white at the beginning, essentially. And the other important thing was we were in an environment with plenty of animals. Some of them, they were really dangerous. Think about snakes. Humans have always had like problems with snakes. So why is adrenaline linked to snakes? Because if a snake tries to bite you, if you dodge the bite, it's only because you jump all the way back in a fight or flight response due to your adrenaline. Like your cortisol, your GABA, no other hormone in the body is as fast as adrenaline. Adrenaline literally has the speed of reaction of 1/10 of a second. It's like you see something flying at you and you dodge. That's adrenaline. It's nothing else but adrenaline. So does it make sense that if you're faced with a threat like a tiger, does it make sense that adrenaline will overpower your sleeping hormone so you can fight the tiger or run away? Is that from a perspective of evolution something that makes sense and is correct? Yes or no? Guys, yes or no? Does it make sense? That says yes. Yes, good, good. Okay, so we always need to understand this part here. Okay, so if we have a problem with adrenaline and GABA, adrenaline is going to overtake GABA, and therefore, obviously, caffeine is going to be more powerful than GABA, meaning that you will be harder for you to fall asleep, or even if you can fall asleep, it's going to be very hard to go into deep sleep. And you do see that with people who can go to bed by drinking Red Bull. They drink Red Bull and they go to bed. But when you check the quality of their sleep, it's very often in the high, like light sleep. They hardly go into deep sleep. And that's because adrenaline and caffeine itself overpowers the action of GABA. The third element, and this is really, really interesting. So caffeine makes you make more glutamate and less GABA. And I want to show you now the cascade for everyone to understand. So you can take glutamine as a supplement. You can take glutamine in bone broth, or you can just eat any kind of protein-rich food. Think about tofu, fish, beans, whatever. And your body makes glutamine because glutamine is a complex amino acid, a small protein, essentially it is. So glutamine is turned into glutamate, this one here, okay? Is glutamate inhibitory or excitatory as a neurotransmitter? Is it inhibitory or excitatory? That's a question for chat. See what chat is saying. It is excitatory. Okay, so if my cascade stops at glutamate and it doesn't go to GABA, if I stop here, how would I feel? Let's say right now I have a surge of glutamate. How would I feel? Does anyone have any idea? Can you describe to me in chat, how would you feel if you stop at glutamate? I don't know, guys, why, because my voice now goes low. I spoken the whole day. You're going to feel hyper. You're going to feel agitated. That's perfect. That's exactly what happens. Okay. So when you have a high level of glutamate, you feel hyper. So sometimes you can really work really, really hard, but sometimes you're going to start to feel too edgy and it's going to be bad. Now, how do we go from glutamate to GABA? As you can see on my slide, there is an enzyme. It's called glutamate decarboxylase, or GD. That's its technical name, glutamate decarboxylase, or GD. And caffeine is an inhibitor of this hormone here. So not only caffeine raises your adrenaline, but also it's going to reduce substantially the conversion between glutamate to GABA up to minus 30%, 30, okay? So it can reduce up to 30% the conversion from glutamate to GABA. As a result, even an activity like meditation, yoga, that are normally going to be able to bring you into the GABA state of mind where you calm down, when you have a lot of caffeine or you are not really good in detoxification of caffeine, it's going to be much harder for you to do this scenario right here. Okay, so I repeat, what are the first two relationships between caffeine and GABA? First, adrenaline production. Adrenaline overpowers GABA, and therefore it's harder for you to go into the deep relaxation or deep sleep. The second, caffeine is an inhibitor, so it inhibits the activity of the hormone called glutamate decarboxylase, and glutamate decarboxylase is the enzyme that turns glutamate into GABA, and therefore you're gonna feel less how you would feel when GABA is present. So it's gonna be harder for you to calm down. And that could be good if you're writing or you're doing something, but sometimes it simply is just a big issue. Okay. These conversion here, depending on the person, depending on their capacity, depending on their genetics, but it can be up to minus 30%, which is a lot. Okay, so caffeine can leave you into the state of glutamate a lot. I guess there is a question. And also, if you supplement glutamine in the evening, I imagine. So, Audrey, that's a good question. And the answer is, it depends how good is the person in making this conversion right here. So some people can do this conversion here really well, so they can take glutamine before bed and nothing happens. Some people, they have a lot of issues. Largely speaking, and I'm going to go back and explain this a bit later, but if you really want to optimize this conversion here, you will require some cofactors, which I'm not going to tell you right now because it's going to be my next question, but it is possible to optimize, and it's something that you can test. Some people can do that with no problem. Some other, they get issues, okay? But I have a slide on that, so I'm going to answer exactly that question in a moment. Before I go there, are we clear on the relationship between glutamate and GABA and the glutamate decarboxylase enzyme and what caffeine does? Before I go to the next one, are we all clear? And if not, please ask me, because I'm here to teach you. I'm not here to show off. Like, it's, you guys need to understand. Like, I already know these things. Okay, beautiful. Now, this is for Audrey was asking. Okay, let's say that someone wants to take glutamine in the night, and it could be a good idea for some people. What cofactors do we need to optimize this? Okay, now we are trying to optimize the conversion from glutamate all the way down to GABA. How do we do that? Does anyone know the single most important cofactor here? There is one which is the most important one of them all. That's right. Come on, be bold and be brave and try to type in chat. I promise I'm not going to tell anyone off for everything. Audrey says magnesium, and magnesium is a correct answer. It's not the main one, but it's right. Magnesium is absolutely right. It's not the main one. Yes, B6 is the main one. So let me show you now the most important ones. Okay, so let me go back here. And you guys, B6 is the primary and most important cofactor of this conversion right here. That's the reason why, I don't know if you can see, but very often with magnesium, they put B6, okay? It's super, super important, but it's not the only one. The second one is something that they put in Red Bull to avoid Red Bull killing you. Does anyone know what that is? What do you put in Red Bull to avoid people from dying from caffeine overload? That's the reason why it's in Red Bull. Does anyone know? Taurine, yes, correct. Factor, that's step 2, okay? So to go from glutamine to GABA, the first 2 direct cofactors are B6 and taurine. And that's also the reason why when you drink like a Red Bull, taurine can lead you all the way to GABA, which balances the caffeine and helps you with the focus. And it's a good idea to have it there because it would be maybe not Red Bull because the can is small, but something like Monster, which has almost 200 milligrams of caffeine. It makes a lot of sense to have taurine right there because it helps to go with the GABA. Taurine also helps with the stability of the beating of the heart, so you get less into arrhythmia. So they're really good to be in there. The third one is what people said, so magnesium. Why? Because magnesium is a cofactor in 300 enzyme reactions, so it's really, really important. It's the cofactor for ATP. So whoever said magnesium is absolutely right. Someone was saying zinc, and that's also good, because the reason why zinc is also good is because, remember this, to make GABA, we need proteins, and we need to break down proteins into amino acids. So to make stomach acid, which is fundamental for that, we need zinc, B1, B3, and B6. So 100% zinc was correct there. It was not the most direct cofactor, but zinc, B1, B3, and B6, absolutely very important. When you put all of these elements together, you're literally countering as much as you can all the risk factors related to caffeine, but you're also going to make the person sleep in a much, much better way. So good job on everyone who answers so far. The final thing that I want to tell you, and then I think we stop here, there is a second problem, a third problem, which is really, really major. So let me show you now. On the right, you see the brain of the same person without caffeine consumption. On the left, 6 weeks of caffeine consumption of 200 milligrams per day, which is roughly the equivalent of 2 strong espressos per day. So not a lot, not a lot. On the right, in orange, you see the distribution of the GABA receptor on the brain. On the left, you see the distribution after 6 weeks with caffeine. And you see both up and down. On the top, you have the entire GABA receptor. On the bottom, you see GABA A receptor, which is the one for chlorine. Okay. What do you see? Do the receptors for GABA become less or more as you get into chronic caffeine consumption? On the left is post 6 weeks with 200, less or more? Okay, you get less. That's a problem. Does anyone know, and this is a difficult question, you might not know, and I'm okay with that, because this is a nasty question, but can anyone postulate why literally you get less receptors for GABA after only 6 weeks with 2 espressos per day? Anyone, can anyone guess anything? And if you don't, that's okay. I'm not going to tell you off with this because this is a nasty question. Autoregulatory. Oh, like, I think you have not been to my lecture, because if you answer, then I'm going to ask you, what do you mean? What do you mean? These are the receptors for GABA, not for caffeine. Does anyone know why the receptor for GABA, they go down? I accept if you don't know this question here. Okay, see, someone is trying. Good job in trying. They're not destroyed. They are reconverted. I'll type here, reconverted. To what? Overstimulated? Yes, Leao, but why? Okay, so can you please raise your hand if you like caffeine? Like, have you ever like drunk caffeine and liked it? I guess most people like caffeine, or it could be the same example for, yes, thank you, Dee, for something like chocolate or anything. They're very pleasurable. So what hormone do you make when something is pleasurable? Does anyone know what kind of hormone do you make when something is present? Dopamine. Yes, yes, and this is the problem. This is the problem. Now, do you think you have unlimited energy that your body can produce and use for your brain? Is the kind of energy that you have in a day limited or unlimited when it comes to your brain health? Limited or unlimited? Which one of the two? It is absolutely limited. This is the problem, okay? So let's say I'm going to use like a small number just for you to understand. But let's say that in a day you can spend 1,000 molecules of ATP for brain health, 1,000. And let's say that normally you would spend 500 for making GABA and 500 to make dopamine, okay? So now you have everything in balance. But let's say you start to take a lot of caffeine, or you start to take a lot of things that trigger dopamine. This could be even social media, by the way. Like this was done on caffeine, but porn does the same. So it's not just caffeine. We're talking caffeine, but many things would continuously trigger dopamine. They can lead a reduced GABA's activity. Why? Because literally the receptor for GABA, they get reconverted into receptor for dopamine. And as a result, the ones that you don't see any longer being orange, they are now receptor for dopamine. So basically you go from like 50-50, you go into a situation where maybe now you have 65% of the receptors for dopamine and only 35 for GABA. The brain is literally making changes to its structure based on the kind of response that you're getting. And the deeper you go into drugs, so imagine something like cocaine, heroin, like these kind of really, really serious drugs, the more they do this kind of problem right here. And it's really, really, really scary. And again, if caffeine can do that only in 6 weeks, okay, these are the effects of 6 weeks of caffeine. Imagine what could happen in 2 months with heroin, or 2 months with cocaine, okay? It's that serious. On top of that, specifically between the relationship between dopamine and GABA, there is also another limiting factor, which is vitamin B6, okay? So vitamin B6 is required by both making dopamine and making GABA. And again, B6 is not unlimited because it's a water-soluble vitamin that you will excrete when you go to the toilet. So if the body is prioritizing dopamine over GABA, GABA is not going to work in the way it is supposed to work. And this is a major, major problem. But beyond the biochemistry, guys, think about what this means for your client, because now I want to bring this into the clinical practice. So you have a client, this client is coming to you, they can't sleep well. Will they be able to sleep well if they are in the situation that you see on the left? Will they be able to sleep well with the situation on the left? Yes or no? No. No. Okay. And that's a big, big, big problem that we are seeing here. So for you as a therapist, once you understand and you look at the food diary of the person and you have an understanding of how really things work, because it's one thing to say caffeine doesn't make you sleep, but the other thing is to understand at the level of the brain what it does, then you understand 2 things. One, vitamin B6, magnesium, all of these nutrients here that we were discussing before are going to be fundamental. But there's going to be a detoxification time, which is largely what happens before you can get new GABA receptors. And then you start to think, okay, what is a receptor made of? It's a protein. Is this person having more than enough of the essential amino acids? If the answer is yes, the receptor can be repaired and can be reconverted. If the answer is no, then you have to put them back into the diet. And then you go again and you're like, what about the membrane? Is the membrane of the person healthy or not? Are they really high in omega-6? Are they eating like something that is full of trans fat? If the answer is yes, you need to get to that situation as well. When you do this kind of magic, things work in a way where people are so mind blown by what you do that necessarily they're going to book with you and they're going to come to you and they will want to talk about you all the time. This is the success story of Hannah. Like, she is dealing with one of the most devastating health conditions that I can think of, which is macular degeneration, because it literally like makes you incapable of seeing, which is really bad. I had my mom having it. Now she's much better, but for like 4 or 5 months, the situation was so terrible because she was not independent any longer. Okay, so but when you have someone at the level of Hannah who understands all of the details of that, well, making people better becomes so incredible. Like, and the result that you can get, guys, are out of your mind. I will tell you some numbers in terms of also earnings in a moment related to also Maria, who's also here. But Maria is like the queen of osteoporosis. Like, but the reason why she is continuously overbooked is not because she is a good therapist, it's because she's freaking amazing. Period. And to get to that stage, you need to understand this kind of stuff. Let me tell you one last thing, and then I'm done. Last thing I tell you as an example. What happens when someone smokes weed? Okay, the active ingredient in weed is this one here, THC, one of the active ingredients. And this literally breaks the GABA receptors because, let me show you like in the first slide. That, okay, like imagine like this purple here, or I don't know if purple is like pink maybe, imagine it's not benzodiazepine, imagine like it's THC. It goes to the GABA receptor and literally forces the GABA receptor to become larger than it should be. Now the GABA receptor is this size and GABA is only this small. This bond here is not as strong as it should be where it was like this, okay? And it can take up to 4 weeks without any sort of weed to repair the receptor. And these things, you need to know them. You need to know them. Knowing these kind of things is the way I literally got, like, dominated the niche of insomnia. Like, I tried for a month and I made a ton of money out of that because I know these kind of things. And these are things that you guys as therapists need to understand and know as well. Okay, so to clarify this, let me tell you this story here, and then I'm gonna answer this question. Thank you, Kate. Now, what does it mean for you? Well, as I said, like, this is really like level 1. To be a master, you need to go so much further beyond this level here. Maria is here. She can give you the testimony if she's still with us. She did one webinar in Greek about osteoporosis, one webinar. And we prepared the webinar together. She joined my course for, I think it was £1,000 when she joined. Maria, correct me if the numbers are incorrect. But that webinar booked her over 27 patients, okay? And her average package is £1,400. Maria, if I'm saying something wrong, please correct me.
Yeah, my main program is €1,200. Okay. So probably like a little bit less in pounds, and yeah, it includes some testing as well. But yeah, I mean the test is about like 200. So yeah, it's a profit of €1,000 per client.
Okay, okay. And guys, how many people do you see doing like webinars about osteoporosis or every other thing? A lot of people. Why did Maria get overbooked? You have any idea? Because her level of skill can be seen and perceived. It shines through. When you are at this level, it shines through. How did Hannah go into other people's Facebook groups on macular degeneration, and literally everyone started to jump her and ask her question? Because her level was so much above than anyone else that simply it shines through. This is the kind of thing that I wanted to understand and to do that. And I will try in these meetings here to make it better for you, because when you develop this, your practice will explode. Like, it's really, really going to go into the stars. And 5 minutes and then we're done. At the current stage, this is 2023, almost 2024. A good therapist is not enough. Absolutely, guys, this is not enough, okay? You must absolutely become great. And I will show you some numbers. What does being great mean? Okay. And I have several courses to teach this. You can ask Irina or Maria that know my courses, or Nicola Newton. They know my courses better than I do, or Hannah. Ask whatever you want, whatever you know. But I'm going to stop the recording. I want to show you some numbers because I don't